All right. This is the first ever Ask Me Anything Citizen Science. Welcome, everybody, on this apocalyptic looking evening. I am Denise Bruce. I'm the Citizen Science Manager with Clean Air NC, and I am your host. And tonight, Kelly and Andrew are with us from the marketing and communications team, and they are going to be helping me with moderation through this event. Um, so tonight we do have a little bit of a format to follow. This is an Ask Me Anything Citizen Science where you will be asking me any questions that you have about the Citizen Science program, but we are going to get started with introductions. And the way that we're going to do introductions tonight is I would like you to introduce yourself, say what county you're from, as well as about who you think your monitor is. I would like to kind of get an idea from folks who are participating about their monitor age. We will follow this with a story experience share from Gordon Miller. And then I will briefly jump into some program updates about what's happened since the initiation of this program and where it has been and where it is going. And then finally, we're gonna just open up the floor. So what I'll do is that I'm gonna start with who I can see on the screen, and that is June Blotnick, our fearless leader.
All right. Denise, I hate to suggest this, but it's nice if we don't do screen sharing during the introduction so we can see everybody. Is that doable?
Yeah, we can do that. Sure.
Okay, there we go. Now we can see everybody. All right. Hey, all. I'm June Blotnick. I'm the Executive Director of Clean Air NC. And so we're really happy to see all of you here tonight. I know a lot of you. And of course, we have some staff members on, but thanks for joining us tonight. We're really glad to have Denise on board and the leadership helm. So I'll leave it at that. And I am in Mecklenburg County and I do not have a monitor.
All right, next up is Gordon Miller.
Okay, I'm Gordon Miller. I'm in Mecklenburg County also. I have the distinction of having a monitor in my backyard. Like everybody else, it's attached to one of my bird feeder things. So sometimes I wonder if the birds are doing stuff to it, but that's about it. And I'll share more stuff in a little bit when we get talking about things that are going on. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bob Parr is next.
I'm Bob Parr. I'm in New Hanover County, and I think I might have been close to one of the first. So some of my monitors are older, some of them are the newer models. I have 5 or 6 monitors. I think I have 5 spread around New Hanover County. And then I have one up near the Sampson wood pellet plant, one in Surf City, which is up the coast. And I'm trying to get one in Columbus County because they don't have any air quality monitors. So anyway, and so I'll share whatever, we want to share later on. Thank you. It's great to see everybody. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Ron Ross is next.
Well, good evening. I'm online. Hopefully the storm won't mess us up. We're getting some rain and thunder and lightning. So if I disappear, you know what happened. I'm in Mecklenburg County in Charlotte. And again, good seeing you again, Robert and Gordon. Haven't seen you guys in a while. Good seeing you as well. And I have a monitor, probably, I think it's 5 years old, but we just replaced it on yesterday. But for some reason, I don't know what's going on with my internet connection. We weren't able to get it connected. So, but it's probably been about 5 years, and part of the historic West End community. And we probably have, I have one other one in my community, which we just recently installed, 2, 3, maybe I think 4 others. So we're trying to expand, and we have some locations close to Martin Marietta that we want to get some communities fitted for air quality monitors as well. So
Good deal. Thank you. Andrew Whelan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Andrew Whalen. I'm Marketing Communications Manager for Clean Air NC. I will be helping Denise moderate this evening, along with Kelly Pekarsik, our Online Engagement Manager. I will be off camera and on mute for most of the time because my daughter is in the background making noise, but it's that is what it is. And I live in Orange County, and I do not have an air monitor.
And Bailey.
Hey y'all, I am Bailey Scarlett. I am a citizen science associate currently working for Denise. I am also living in Mecklenburg County, and I actually do have an air monitor right now, although I am not an AirKeeper. And one of the things I am working on this summer, as I'm working for Denise, is gathering stories from the AirKeepers, and I look forward to reaching out to y'all later to hear about your experiences and eventually turn them into a blog.
Thank you. Oh man, somebody dropped off and it like rearranged my list. Bob Thompson.
So I'm Bob Thomason, and I'm with Myers Park Baptist Church in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County. We've had our monitor for maybe 5 or 6 years. I don't know. I can't keep track of time anymore. It's been a while, but I guess it was wait a minute. It was yes, I think it was 2018 or so. Anyway, we made it a church project and asked people to contribute. And interestingly, it was mostly our young people that contributed. So we put the monitor up. We're in a very affluent part of town, right across from Queen's University, and that should be a good data point to compare with some of the other data points around the city and around the state.
Good deal. Thank you. Ed Barrows.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I'm Ed Barrows. I was, I was recruited into this thing a long time ago. I used to work at the EPA in air monitoring. So that was kind of my specialty, and I got interested in it. I originally maintained 2 monitors, one here at my home in Wake County, and the other, we had a second home up in the mountains in Watauga County. So we had 2 of them. We recently sold that home, so that monitor's gone to a friend of mine who has it, and it's also in Wake County, but he is maintaining it. I think I've had this monitor that I've got at the house here, at least 10 years, I would think. I go back to where they had to replace the USB transformers. So whenever that was before that. So that was a while back. And the one I've got is limping along. It's still operational. But there's a lot of parameters, it's not picking up anymore. So it's semi broke.
Okay.
Today.
Well, we'll get that fixed. We'll talk a little bit about that during the update. Gerald, you there? Gerald.
Yes.
Oh. Okay.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Let me start my video. Sorry about that. Hi, everybody. My name is Gerald Babao. I'm the Deputy Director here at Clean Air NC. I do have a monitor. I've had one for about 2 years. However, I live in South Carolina. In fact, for those of you in Mecklenburg County, I live in proximity to the Indy Container Plant. I've been living in Lancaster, South Carolina for about 3 or 4 years now. Thank you so much for your time today. And I look forward to hearing from all of you. So thank you.
Thank you. Greg Parrott.
Hey everyone, I'm Greg Parrott. I'm a Senior Environmental Specialist at the Forsyth County Office of Environmental Assistance and Protection. One of I guess my first assigned duties was actually the purple air. So we got that installed at our regulatory monitoring station, Hattie Avenue, east of downtown Winston-Salem, back around April 1st, 2018. And it's still running. I've noticed a few more problems with it recently where I've used electronics duster and channels A and B don't seem to come back together anymore. So it might be kind of on its way out, but it's interesting anyway, because it's co-located with, we have a Thermoscientific 2025i FRM there. And then for continuous, we have a Teledyne API T640X. So it's good to have co-located data, I feel. And then we have a second monitor as well at the Caladium North Science Museum north of Winston-Salem. I wasn't as involved in that one. I think that's been there maybe 2 to 3 years, something like that. And that one's mounted to the side of a building, whereas the one at Hattie Avenue is strapped to the railing on the top of our monitoring shelter. So yeah.
Nice. Thank
We
you.
were just talking about the co-location. Denise, you said, was it Forsyth or Mecklenburg?
Yes.
And I thought we had one in Mecklenburg, but I didn't remember that one, Greg. So
Yeah, that's exciting. Next person is Yvonne. Yvonne.
Hey, me. Hi, everyone. I'm
Hi.
Yvonne. I'm environmental specialist with Mecklenburg County Air Quality, and I'm here to learn more about the Clean Air Program. So thank you for having me.
Yeah. Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly Pekarsik. I'm on staff with Clean Air NC as the online engagement manager. I do not have a monitor, and I'm here to support Denise, and I live in Mecklenburg County. It's good to see everyone.
Thank you. And Steve O'Neill.
Hi, I'm Steve O'Neill. You're gonna have to bear with me. I'm getting over COVID, so I break into these really fun coughing fits occasionally, but I feel practically fine now. So I'll keep my microphone muted to spare you that. Anyway, I started with all of this. Oh, actually, I should say I'm a science educator, naturalist, and work at a small wilderness therapy school in the mountains up here near Brevard, basically. And after the fires in 2016 and associated with the drought, and the air quality got so bad, I'm like, there needs to be a way to monitor this. And I just started poking around on the internet, and I found Purple Air. Didn't even know about Clean Air Carolina, and installed my first monitor then. So I guess that was 16 or 17. And that monitor worked until about 3 months ago, maybe 2 or 3 months ago. And then Gerald sent me some monitors, and I installed a new one at that location. And then the one at my house where I am now, it stopped working about the same time. And so I installed one here to keep the Pisgah Forest monitor up and running. And I believe at one time I had up to 13 monitors running, but now they're down to about 8 or 9, because I need to go out and do some servicing and find out what's going on with some of the ones that have stopped working or disappeared from the maps. And I can't get in touch with my original contacts. And so if you ever have this many monitors running, it's a chore. But I'll get them back online eventually. And that's the plan for this summer.
Fantastic. Thank you. Did I miss anybody? Was there anybody that I did not call on?
I just wanted to ask Steve what county he's in. I always thought you were in Transylvania, but that's it. Okay, Transylvania County.
Correct. Yeah. Across the woods.
Okay.
So the next thing that we're going to do, thank you everybody for coming tonight and for your introductions. The next thing we're going to do is that we're going to take a kind of a feature spotlight on Mr. Gordon Miller and his participation in the program. He's going to talk about his experience and how he got involved. As we move forward with other citizen science Ask Me Anything opportunities, we're gonna do this kind of highlight a few AirKeepers each time that we do this. And Gordon volunteered, and for time's sake, I think I'm gonna have to do just limiting it to just one AirKeeper each time to really dive in there about their experience. So Gordon, take it away.
Well, thank you very much. I may be a little different than some of you. I've been doing air pollution since 1971. As a matter of fact, I taught air pollution at the university that June went to, except she graduated before I had the class. So went on from there. A number of years ago here in Mecklenburg County, we had a group called Breathe, which was to try and kickstart issues that we had in Mecklenburg County concerning exceedances of national ambient air quality standards. I was on that group for a number of years, along with several other people. And as that group began to finish up its work, Nancy Bryant and I were talking one night, and we said, well, we need to keep some of this stuff going. And in her living room with several other people, and Kelly, I think you might have been there. I can't recall if you were or weren't.
Not at that time,
Okay.
but I did come in a little later.
Just a little bit later.
Yeah.
We put together a Coalition for Clean Air in North Carolina, which was the original name for the group. It's now, of course, Clean Air NC. But we put that together with the thought of doing what we're talking about, and that is making citizen scientists out of people who may or may not be quite as educated as I am. I have a master's degree in air pollution, as a matter of fact. And we wanted to create a situation which was not governmental related, but looking to create a better understanding of what air pollution is, what it can do to the communities. Steve, I very much appreciated your comments about things up in the mountains with the forest fires, and going from there. What ended up happening was I was involved, and I kept getting involved with this and with that as the organization went through. And sure enough, guess what shows up? The Purple Air Monitor. Now, when I started doing air pollution work, we used vacuum cleaners and glass fiber filters. And what we do is we'd sample the air for 24 hours at 7 cubic feet per minute through the filter. We'd weigh the filter before, weigh the filter after, and we'd say, wow, that was pretty interesting. We collected a lot of dirt. Today, we're doing a much better job of understanding the differences. And for those of you who are aware of it, there's total dust or total suspended solids is the oftentimes used term. PM10, which is particulate matter 10 micrometers or less in diameter unit density spheres. And today we're most interested in the PM 2.5 or fine particulates, which reside in the lung. I can spend a couple hours if you would like talking about the physiology of the lung, but reside in the lung once they get there for quite a while. As a matter of fact, they almost are never brought out of the lung system. So they have a significant opportunity to create problems in the lungs. Now, Steve, just as a note, most of the particulate that you were getting from the fires was the larger particulate, but there's definitely some smaller particulate in there. It typically is not quite as much larger particulate as typical forest fire. Coming out of exhaust of automobiles and stuff like that, that's where the 2.5 shows up in generally large quantities. Another thing that was interesting for me was here in Mecklenburg County, and Greg, you don't have quite as much of an issue up there in Forsyth County or in Wake County. Peter Lloyd was a good friend of mine, Greg, so it's there. The things that were bothering us, we saw as big issues were ozone and particulate matter. And what happened was we came across this wonderful little device, Purple Air, that said, hey, we can measure PM 2.5, or at least may become aware of the surrogate for it, and that would be some form of dust that would be in the air. So we got several of them. I can't remember, June, we didn't get many on the first go. It was like 5 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And we decided, let's go ahead and put these out. And I grabbed one and took it out. And for a number of years, it sat on my back porch, attached to a chair that my wife did not like. So I worked it out where I could take it to the town of Matthews. Yeah. And we put it at the Matthews Public Works area. I should point out, I chair the town of Matthews Environmental Advisory Committee. And we had it there until COVID hit. And one of the things I heard a couple of you comment about, and I had this problem with the same monitor I've been using for years over at the town of Matthews Public Works Department, was that the internet was on and off. And if you lose the internet, guess what? You got to go out there and put it all back together again. So if you're losing the internet, or if you're having problems keeping it on, generally your issue is getting yourself close enough to a Wi-Fi facility and where it's going to be consistent. And I've got it here at home. It's about, as the crow would fly, it's about 40, 45 feet from the Wi-Fi antennas. So I've not had any problems with doing it. I've had more problems with the people who come and work on my house pulling the plug on the monitor and me having to go back out, put plug back in and see if I can get it back online. I've been monitoring it for years. And Ron, I'm on the other side of the county from you. You're up in the northwestern portion of the county, towards the northwestern portion of the county. I'm in the southeastern portion of the county. But I've spent a lot of time looking at what the differences are, trying to figure out why something is happening in one part of the county versus another part of the county. Because we're actually, and this is not the case with ozone. With ozone, you're going to get, it's pretty much going to be the same over a larger area. And I'm not saying a larger area meaning just a couple square miles. I'm talking about miles and square miles and square miles. In particulate, it tends to go wherever the winds are blowing. And the end result is where the winds are blowing, you're going to have that particulate, and trying to figure out where it comes. Now, in Mecklenburg County, as within most of North Carolina, the prevailing winds are coming out of the southwest. So I tend to take a look towards Pineville when you're in Matthews. And interesting enough, who's the one who, Gerald, are you the one who lives in South Carolina?
Yes, sir. Yes,
okay.
Lancaster.
Yeah, I know Lancaster well. And I had a Superfund site that I helped out with at just off the site of the new Indy facility. But taking a look in that direction, trying to figure out what's going on. And I'll go back to why I'm interested in doing that kind of stuff. When I was teaching in the university, it was Indiana University of Pennsylvania. In June, I won't tell anybody when you graduated because that's a secret. But we had, as part of the air pollution class, we had a laboratory part of it, and we sampled air. We had people sampling ozone, we had people sampling particulate, we had people doing other things. And the particulate gang, I added in that they would do a sampling and then run a Geiger-Muller counter over the top of it just to see if there was anything interesting. The Geiger-Muller counter, I'm suddenly big on the thing. One night I get this phone call from the lab group that was handling the particulate, and they said, we can't believe what happened. We normally, when we run the Geiger-Muller counter over the top of the filter, we normally get those 15, 16, 17, 18, maybe 20 counts. Tonight we got 125. And I said, well, we got class tomorrow morning. We are going to figure out what's going on. At which point, the next morning, we took a look at all the activity that was going on, all the weather that was going on at that particular point. And we had a direct line going from where the campus power plant is, now June can remember where that is, to and over the chemistry building, which is where we had the sampler set up on the roof. Right after class, we went over to the campus director of things and said, there's something wrong with this coal-fired power operation. And he looked at me and he said, don't tell anybody, our air pollution control device quit yesterday. So we were picking stuff out, and that's the kind of stuff, and Ron, that's where you come in on things. We're trying to pick out where these sources are so we can begin to understand them better. And in this particular case, all they had to do was get the device fixed. But we have to understand more about the particulate matter, the stuff that's going in. And the reason it's a little bit more interesting maybe than ozone typically is a summertime issue. Beginning, well, really about now is when we start to get higher levels of ozone, and that'll go typically into September or so. Now we cover both, I'm using my hands, we cover both sides of it a couple months earlier and a couple months later. Particulate matter is a all year round issue. So interestingly enough, we're trying to make that happen. Now, things that have happened with the monitor, I've got it right now placed on I've got bird feeders out in the back of my yard, which tend to drag in the wonderful folks called squirrels. But the birds are out there, they're happy and healthy. But a couple months ago, I noticed that I was having some problems. I couldn't get A and B to be the same. Now, I talked to Denise about it a little bit ago. This is Denise, you can answer that question a little later on. But she said, why don't you take your shop vac out there and just give it a really good cleaning? Well, I did that. And it took about a week, week and a half, and suddenly A and B are reading the same. So these units are relatively robust if you keep them clean. So all you need to do, take your shop vac out or something like a shop vac and give it a good, don't blow into it. I was always vacuuming, but give it a good vacuuming and give it a little bit of time. In this particular case, it was a couple of weeks, and the numbers start to come back to normal. As a matter of fact, only in the last couple of days, has it come back to roughly 100% agreement. So we've got that. In terms of other kinds of things, again, it's outside. Aside from the folks pulling the plug, it's working. And it has worked for years, as long as you get the wonderful Wi-Fi connections working right. I had a Wi-Fi go down, and I was down for a couple of days on that. But that's what you need to do, and that's what you need to make happen. And then watch and see what the data tells you. It'll point you in the right direction. It'll help you out with what's going on, but you may have to do a little bit of weather forecasting too. Denise, I'm quite willing to take questions at this point and go from there.
To unmute. Excellent. Thank you so much for that. I really enjoy listening to the history because although I have worked for the state and I know the history of air quality in the Fayetteville region, it's always interesting to hear about the history and development of air quality and air quality protection statewide.
Oh,
so
worldwide actually is interesting.
Yeah, worldwide too. So I greatly appreciate that, and also sharing your experience with cleaning out the monitor. So I'm going to take a 2-minute detour to some program updates. One of the things that happened before I was hired was there was a whole network assessment done by a group called Eastern Research Group, and they put together an entire assessment of the program, but also kind of the network status. And what they found at the time, back in 2020, was we had deployed about 164 monitors in the state. And in 2020, they found that of those 164, only 66 were operational at that time. Now, in 2022, May 2022, so about 2 months after I arrived, there was, out of those 164 that were deployed, 68 of them were running. And part of that 164 is part of a group that I like to call the missing, because there is some metadata that was not captured about those monitors. So we don't know if they are running or not. And for some of you, I've actually sent out an email asking you, do you know your station IDs? I've actually been able to find a good majority of those station IDs. We only have about 6 monitors right now that I don't have station IDs for. And the reason those station IDs are important is because at any time I can now check the status of the entire network with a few hundred lines of code. So versus what was happening before, where we had to go through piecemeal, one monitor at a time on the Purple Air website. So I did want to kind of give that update and share why I was asking for station IDs in the beginning. For some of you, y'all, you have monitors that are down at the moment, and I've already communicated with those of you who have monitors that are part of that missing group and are down. So hopefully the goal is by the end of this summer we are on the majority side of that up and running, versus I'd like to see more than 50% of our monitors up and running at any given time. And the reason I say make that any given time remark is because I do understand the internet does go in and out for some folks. And it could be just that's how things are. We are working on deploying some monitors that have SD cards where Wi-Fi is unreliable. That won't be for every replacement, but it will be for some. We will be using I forget Wi-Fi signal strength as a determinant of whether or not you will get one of those that has an SD card. But for the vast majority of folks who are already on the network, and they are currently operating, you have consistent Wi-Fi. So we'll make that determination for replacements over the next few months as well, because I do know that some of these are just at the end of their life. I was at ASIC, that's the Air Sensors International Conference in Pasadena, where I learned more. I probably have forgotten more from that conference than I was able to relay or retain. It was just so much information. And one of the things I did learn is that in North Carolina, because we don't have a high pollution load, our monitors tend to last a lot longer than some of the more polluted areas of the country and the world. I listened to a lady from India who was very upset that their monitors tend to quit working and cannot be cleaned or recovered at about that 14 to 18 month mark. So, and we have monitors that have been running 6-7 years. So before we start to really see a separation between the two monitors. So did want to give that quick update. The next thing that we're going to do is I'm now going to open the floor for questions, and feel free. We are going to keep mics muted. Use the hand raising function that is available so that we can see you. And I will try to call on you in the order that you raise your hands. And Gordon, I'm no longer going to spotlight you. So yeah.
Hey, Denise, if you'd like to make me a co-host, I can help you manage that.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
Make a co-host. That I knew there was a thing. I'm used to Microsoft Teams, guys. So it's the first time running something on Zoom for me. How about that? The entire pandemic, I'm finally like getting to use Zoom. All right. So if you have any questions, or you have something that you want to share, you have questions directly to me, or you want to ask questions directly from Gordon to Gordon, feel free to, when you ask your question, say who it's for, and we'll go that way.
And Bailey has his hand up right now.
Okay. Yes, Bailey.
Yes, I have something to share related to the story about the shop vac. And Gerald and I were working on cleaning an older monitor earlier today, and we used a can of compressed air like you would use to clean a keyboard. And we found that it actually worked really well because this older monitor, it was from many years ago, had all sorts of dust and grime like way down in the back of it, and we needed to like blast it out. And I just felt like sharing that because they can be hard to clean.
Am I in?
Yeah.
Okay. I chose to use the shop vac in the vacuum mode because I've got a big shop vac. And rather than blow a huge amount of air in, what you were doing, Bailey, was probably one of those, it was probably a can of that stuff. I could not guarantee that I wouldn't blow the guts out of it with the shop vac. So I just said, let's pull and go from there. And literally within an hour or two, I could see results coming along too from just the shop vac. So Steve, if you're up there in the mountains, you've got a couple options now.
Yeah, I guess I do. I mean, I've been using, this stuff. And, I worried about that myself. I worried about the fact that here I'm forcing air into this thing that just so ever so slightly pulls a tiny amount of air in. I'm like, and I can hear that little fan in there spinning up like a jet engine or something. And I worried about it. But after my first initial experience with a monitor that stopped working, probably in 2018 or 19, I noticed one beautiful summer day that my monitor was reading in the 400s, and I'm like, that's not right. And so I think I contacted Purple Air, I believe, because that was right before I started working with Clean Air Carolina, and they said just shoot some air through it. And that probably, they said, what's your situation like? And I told them, and they said, yeah, a little bug probably crawled up in there. And so I sprayed it, I shot it with some of the canned air, and little spider bits fell out of it. And so a little baby spider had decided to make his home in there. And I guess he just didn't do too well. So after I did that, it worked perfectly within a few days. Like you said, it started working, and the numbers came back to normal, and it worked great until this spring when I finally had to replace it. But yeah, that's I've never thought about using a vacuum cleaner. That's a great idea. So we have two tools now.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Purple Air recommends either one. So just keep that in mind with what tools you have available. Yvonne asked in the chat, what's the average lifespan of Purple Air monitor? The funny thing is that there doesn't seem to be an average lifespan. And the reason I say that is that it really has to do with pollution load in an area. Purple Air doesn't have an answer for that. One of the things that we want to do with Clean Air and the number of monitors we have is kind of look at the statewide average lifespan, since we have such a large data set now. But there's not a set answer yet. But yeah, we're working on it. I'm hoping that we get a machine learning model that shows the average lifespan, something with some predictive analytics on it, but that's just the data science part of me. Bob, yes, sir.
Yes. So, I was unaware that, I was responsible for cleaning the monitor and checking on it to make sure it was working. And but tonight I thought I heard you say that you're going to be, kind of checking on the monitors, and if they go down, you're going to notify us. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. What I'm going to start doing in the month of July and moving forward, about once a month, I'm going to run a status report. And part of that's because some of our monitors were registered directly to our agency, to Clean Air, and not to our AirKeepers and site hosts. So you're not getting those notifications when they go out. We've decided that across the board, for the folks that it was registered to us, go ahead and just give everybody a status update, whether your monitor was registered so that you get notifications from Purple Air, or if we get them, we're going to go ahead and solve that by giving everybody just a status update on their monitor once a month, an up or down kind of deal. We may also include if there's separation between the A and B channel, also if the percentage is too far off, just to keep the data accurate.
Okay.
All
Thank
right.
you.
You're welcome. Next person was Steve O'Neill.
Yeah. Excuse me. Oh yeah, here it is. This monitor. Where's my camera?
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, this one was at a friend of mine's house ever since I installed the one on my classroom, which is on the east side of DuPont Forest. And both of those monitors stopped working within about a month of each other, which I think is very interesting. We'd have to look back in the, in all the notes and make sure that that's what happened. But I believe that's what happened, that they were installed around the same time and they died about the same time. But did they really die? I don't know. I'm sending them back to Purple Air, or what you want me to do with them. I'm not sure, but I would like to find out, what was the cause of death on these things, or can they be salvaged, and if so, we can put them back out somewhere.
So salvaging, I did learn at the Air Sensors International Conference that you can actually take the sensor out of the housing and take it apart. Now, for those of you who've got monitors that are less than a year old, do not do that. They are still under warranty with Purple Air. But if you've got one of our really old ones, and you are, after talking to me and letting me know what you're doing and what the MAC address is, I am interested, especially Steve, since you're out at a school, to see what it might, you do, because according to Purple Air, you can take it apart, you can take the sensor apart, clean all of the parts inside the sensor, and put it back together again. Now, that is what the CEO of Purple Air said. So, and everybody in the room kind of took a collective gasp when he said that. But because people were like, they're only warranty for a year and they die at 18 months. So I'm interested to see if some of them can be refurbished. But we will talk about a process for doing that for sure, because we do have a lot of them out there. So, yeah. Ed?
Okay, well, this has been an interesting discussion. I sort of thought that maintenance on these things was off limits, but I've got one that's ancient, and I'm thinking, hey, I can't do any worse than it's doing right now. I do have some tools that can go into those kinds of things. So I think if I go offline for a little bit tomorrow, I should be back up and should be fine. I have some confidence that I can probably clean some things out and maybe get things aligned. So there is a remaining question here, and that was the length of time after coming back online, after doing maintenance. I understand it's going to take it some time to settle in. Is that correct? Do I understand that way?
Yep.
Okay.
It takes about 2 weeks, Ed.
Okay. That's good to know. So I'm going to run an experiment then, and I'll let you know how this turns out.
Please do it. It's important that we understand that. If you give
Yeah.
it a good cleaning, yeah.
Because even in the air sensors world, because these things are still new, I mean, they're less than 10 years old as far as like their wide distribution. There's people got tons of questions, even Purple Air, and the sensor engineers out there are still like, we're not really sure entirely. So they're actually relying on us to figure some of this out. But again, if you've got one that's less than 1 year old, is still under warranty, please let me know if it breaks. We will send it back to Purple Air.
Okay.
Greg. Yeah. Greg?
There we go. I had to hit unmute. So I've sprayed, electronics duster only occasionally because I try to watch the channels, and in my experience, I mean, sometimes if it's really bad, you'll actually see a jet of dust blow out from the particle counters, but channels A and B will start reading close to each other within an hour, usually, sometimes within a half hour. That's why it was alarming this time when I did it and it didn't fix it. And now it's like been like a week and it isn't better. So in that situation, I wonder if I should either try it again or if it requires something like taking it apart, like you had said as well. But so I just thought I'd offer that, since it seemed like the consensus was, well, it takes several days to maybe weeks for it to get kind of, back together again, the two channels, but mine's always been much faster than that. And I guess it's taken 4 years for that to not be the case. And I found, honestly, it's not really needed that often. I find maybe 2-3 times a year, if that, but it seems necessary to do that. But obviously some of that could be pollution load as well. And in general, in Forsyth County, it's not so bad. So maybe it makes sense. I don't have to, do it that often, but that's kind of my experience.
Oh, where did Gordon? Gordon?
Yes, I'm out here.
So here's a question in the chat. How far different is channel A and B considered unacceptable? That is a question that I realized whenever I said that we need to look at that I did not have a clear answer for the moment that I said it out of my mouth. So that is one that I'm going to have to come back to, unless one of you guys know from a scientific perspective. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go check the specifications on Purple Air to be sure of that one and get back to you.
Yeah, and that would be a good one. A good question for them. The issue is what will happen is Greg is absolutely right. They'll start to come back to being close together very quickly. It's dumping all the past numbers out because it tends to average. And dumping all those numbers out is going to take a couple of weeks. and then it'll get back to it's agreeing A to B. We need to go on to Ron and get his comments and Steve.
Yeah.
Don't let me forget. I want to, if we can share a screen of somebody's data, I want to show you a little trick if I can.
Okay. Ron?
Yeah, just quick question on the map. Did we change the sensor name? Because I know we're trying to get more in our immediate community. So I know at one time they were kind of designated specifically for specific locations, so we could recognize. Excuse me, these gnats are coming back already. But and the other question: are we looking at? Maybe it's here and I wasn't aware of it, but as far as historical data over a period of time, something that is displayed on the maps, or is that something we need to get? Are we going to look at getting historical reports so we can say last, 2021
Yeah. So to answer your first question,
versus 2022 and so forth, and see what that trend looks like?
Yeah, we're able to get that data directly from Purple Air. And in fact, our interns are working on specifically for Historic West End at the moment, pulling data that's already on Purple Air to compare with what was produced back in 2017, 2018, 2019. So we're working on that. And to answer the question about the naming of the Purple Air, because I know that you've had a couple, all of the new Purple Air that are in the Historic West End are going to be part of the Green District program. So they're going to be Historic West End. They're going to be Clean Air NC with the location name, and then the end of it's going to say HWGD, Historic West End
Green District.
Green District. Yeah. I can see the acronym in my head and I can't say the so but it will say it'll have the initials for Historic West End Green District in the name as well. Now I will show you guys whenever you, Gordon, when you say show data, I'll get to you, Steve, but I'm curious because I got to go look for it. Or do you
what I want you to do is just pull up the map.
Okay, I'll do that.
From the Purple Air website?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get to Steve's question and I'll go pull that up.
I also want to note that Bob asked a question in the chat. I don't want to miss that one. So
is that we got another question? Is that the one about the A and B channels being unacceptable?
Roughly speaking, how do Purple Air monitors compare with NC DAQ official monitors for PM 2.5?
And that's where I want to go.
Okay, we will answer that with Gordon.
Okay. Thank you.
Steve, thank you, Kelly.
Yeah.
I guess it's not a question, but a monitor that, sorry, that I have in place in Graham County in the community of Almond. It's on a friend of mine's house, and his house is really, really old, and it's very dusty, and there's a lot of, well, it's actually more that it's covered in, there's all kinds of bugs, and they were getting in his monitor and causing problems. And so, sorry, I suggested putting a piece of window screen over the monitor to keep the bugs out, and it has worked great. He's not had any more trouble of bugs crawling into the monitor and spinning webs, and there were cocoons being built in his monitor, and this stopped all that. But it's a piece of that, I guess it's like a plastic window screen, and he just uses a rubber band to hold it on the monitor, but it still allows airflow because it has holes in it. Now, it's kind of a test, a little experiment. I haven't had to do that with my monitors because I haven't had any trouble other than that one little baby spider so many years ago. But that just might be something to consider. And we, of course, have to do enough testing to find out which screen would work the best. And we wouldn't want to be blocking any particulates, of course, but PM 2.5 is so small, it's going to get right through there. It's not a problem. Even PM 10, it's not, I wouldn't think it would be an issue with screen size holes.
And Steve, the definition of total suspended particulates is 100 microns. or less unit density sphere. So a window screen would not present any barrier whatsoever.
No, not at all. Yeah, it should be fine. It does keep the bugs out. That's what matters.
That's the big problem. I think I had bugs too.
Yep.
So Gordon, I've got, well,
And share your screen then.
yep. Gonna share the whole screen. All right, so we're gonna, so
Okay.
right here
Go ahead and
is,
pick one. You can pick mine if you want.
I don't know which one yours is.
Down in Mecklenburg
You have
County,
to go down. You have to really go in.
it's the one that says 39 in
Yeah,
Matthews.
Matthews.
Yep.
Okay, just go ahead and click on it.
All right.
Okay. They've changed the screen a little bit.
Right.
There used to be a way, and this is the trying to make sure that you're comparing apples to apples. They used to have a thing on there, and they've taken it off, where you could ask for different screening models.
You can still do that.
There was one on, there it is.
The data layer.
US
So you have to click on widget to get it.
Yep.
Okay, go back, Denise, and do that again, so I can see what you did.
All I
Go ahead
did
and
was click on
hit
the
the
plot.
X.
I can't hit the X. I got the screen sharing thing in my way. Hold
Oh,
Yeah, it's okay. So all you have to do is just click whenever the plot shows up,
Uh-huh.
you just click on it and it'll take you to the data layer.
now go ahead and do a drop down on where it says US EPA PM 2.5 AGI.
Yeah.
There, a number of people have gone through and tried to do equivalencies.
Yeah.
So the US EPA 2.5, that's going to give you an approximation of what the number would be in the US. If you go somewhere else, for example, yeah, just pick one.
Like the Village Green.
Yeah, let's do village green.
Okay, that gives you a different,
Yeah, it gives
different,
you a different view altogether.
right?
Hmm.
That's interesting.
That says, oh, that says UNC Charlotte. That's one of Brian's.
That, yeah, that's Dr. Maggie and his ideas
Yeah.
going on up
So
there.
let's see what Australia's looks like. Interesting.
Just a little lower.
Yeah. So just a little lower. And
Yeah, did we do the US EPA? Okay, so
Yeah.
30 from 39. So purple air tends to run a little high.
Yeah.
Is
Could
that
be.
right, Gordon?
Yeah,
Yep.
it typically does, because it's not, there's no speciation being conducted. There's no, we were just talking about filters and stuff. There's no filtering going on. It's just picking up what it sees. And this is a sort of a typical speciation.
but I do encourage everybody to play with the data layers and see what they
Oh,
look like.
please do.
Definitely click on the eye and learn, like, because they do have really good information in there. So I highly encourage that kind of exploration. Steve, you had a question? You're muted.
Sorry. I just didn't want to be coughing all over everyone. So yeah, I just wanted to share something that I'm working on that you might be interested in. Can I share a screen?
Sure, I think so.
Okay.
Can we do that in host mode?
Will that work? Can you guys see that?
We're good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, this is my new mobile classroom project that I'm working on, and it's fully solar powered. It has a weather station up here. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but it has a weather station that is a ambient weather station, which is a company called Ambient Weather. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. Here's another view. This was our first program about 2 weeks ago. And it also has, here's purple air. I can't see the things at the top of the screen. That's weird. There's a pane at the top of the screen. Maybe if I do this. Nope, it's still there. Okay, now it's gone. Oh, it's still there now. I was trying to go. I don't know how to get rid of that screen. There it is. I made it happen. Okay, so this is showing the pod, which we call it the NASA pod, the Nature and Science Adventure Pod of Discovery is what we call it. And it actually has, and it's behind this pane of you guys. Let me see if I can move that. It actually also has a PM 2.5 sensor on it. So I can compare that one with the purple air monitor on my house, which they're both on site at this moment. But this is reading in the same as the Tasmanian, was that micrograms per meter cubed or something like that? I'm not sure, but yeah. So it's just really interesting to be able to have this functionality. And I'm going to be able to use it more in my education efforts. How do I unshare my screen? I don't know.
Just stop sharing. There should be stop sharing at the top or somewhere.
Is it gone now?
No,
Weird.
it might have been in that. There we go.
There you go.
There we go. Okay, but anyway, that's just something I wanted to share, that I have a mobile air monitor station now, but I'm still trying to figure out how to make it work. Any advice would be welcome. If anybody has, and you can always email me offline, off Zoom, and just, it might be a really neat thing to be able to use when we have, forest fires, for instance, or any instance of point source pollution, where we could park the thing on site and it has cameras monitoring 360 degrees. It's a pretty cool setup.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that with us, Steve. We
You're
are
welcome.
at the end of our hour. We have 2 minutes left.
Sorry.
This has been very illuminating, honestly. Like, I'm so excited that everybody joined us tonight and was able to share their experience and kind of trade the ins and outs of being a monitor host and everything. And that I was able to share some of the things that I learned from Air Sensors International with everyone. And I'm actually kind of excited with the idea of taking some of these apart and seeing if we can't clean them up and refurbish them. And I'm also excited to share more with regard to like what's happening at Purple Air with the website and how to get data off of there. But yeah, that's my final piece. Was there anything that June you wanted to close out with, or?
Yeah, I was just thinking if folks have to jump off, go ahead, but maybe we can just go around and just final thoughts or questions from everybody. I'm really excited that we had this. We haven't done this before in 5 years, so we're really excited to see the folks behind me, or behind all the Purple Airs. So
yeah, it really is.
And so, yeah, Gordon, we want to thank you for sharing your story. You're a real expert, and we're glad to have you. But any final thoughts from folks? Like, what, was this good? Did you learn something? What else do you need to know?
Ron?
Yeah, just a quick comment. I would just love to see more interaction amongst the group. Maybe if we got together quarterly or something, just to chit chat or whatever. So, it's good to connect with people. So, kind of crazy now. And with Zoom, we can do it at a distance, more frequently. So, but.
And Ron is doing a whole lot of advocacy with his data. So he's got we started the whole program in his community. So he's got a lot to share.
Steve, your hands up?
Yeah, I agree with Ron. We need to get the word out, and I teach air quality and air monitoring and citizen science in my classroom, and I teach middle and high school age kids and early college. And, and it really blows their minds when, we start talking about this and we zoom in on their hometowns and there's Purple Air monitors all over the place. And they're like, wow, that's near my house. And why is the air so dirty? And, and I'm like, okay, let's talk about that. Why do you think the air is dirty? And it opens really stimulating conversation that gets kids thinking about what's in their air. They've never thought about this, and it's a very powerful tool.
And Steve, let me jump in and comment. You need to somehow get an ozone monitor up there. You get some pretty good ozone levels up the upper levels in the mountains, and they need to hear and see that too.
That's a great idea. I'd love to try to figure out a way to do that. I don't know where to go for that.
Talk to Denise. I think she might have something.
I think we might have one.
There might be some monitors out there, some sensor makers out there who would be happy to sell us one.
I'd be glad to install one, and we can get one up at, I'm about 2,600 feet, I believe is what the elevation is. Not
Mhm.
super high. It's not like Klingman's Dome or anything.
Yeah. Stephen Carter, hi.
Hey, yeah, I don't currently have a monitor up. We got one. I got one for our Asheville Makerspace a few years ago, and we had it up there for a while. But then, for various reasons, we had to take it down, and haven't had it back up since. But I've gotten it out, and Denise, I think I contacted you, and I'm looking forward to getting it back up again. And one of the things I'm wondering is, do we have a mailing list set up for people? I mean, we can't always run a Zoom all the time, but if we had a Google Groups or something of that sort set up where people could chat about what they're doing or ask questions, that would be very helpful.
Oh, that
Right.
would. I actually like that idea. We are going to roll out a whole a Google Drive resource folder, but I think a Google Groups might actually be helpful as well. I thank you for the recommendation. I'll
Yeah,
explore.
that would go right along with the Google Workspace.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else closing remarks, or do we just want to go all the way back around the room?
We can just.
Yvonne?
Yes, thank you. I just want to say thank you for.
Oh, you want Beth on mute?
Uh-oh. Bandwidth.
Can't hear you.
I don't know why it keeps muting me. Sorry, guys. Okay. I just want to say thank you for putting this together. I've learned a lot. I think that what you guys are doing is essential in learning how these personal air sensors work and how we can use them, because it's not feasible to have regulatory monitoring stations everywhere. So it's great to be able to analyze the data and understand them better. So I really appreciate what you guys are doing, and then especially because I do education and outreach, how I can use these resources to redirect students to your way, and so I think this is a great program. So keep doing what you're doing. I just wanted to comment on that. Great program tonight. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Yvonne, talk for just a moment about that wonderful little thing that we were standing up there in First Ward Park about several weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So we do have an air quality learning station in First Ward Park. We just did the ribbon cutting recently. We're very excited and very proud to have that. And that is a non-regulatory sensor. And it's something that we want to make air visible, right? I think that is the hardest thing about what we do, is that we take it for granted. You know, you take a deep breath early in the morning and you just keep it moving all day, but we just don't see it. So it's really hard to make that connection for people on how air quality affects us and the importance of it. So that is part of what that air quality learning station is doing in First Ward Park. And it has a really awesome flower displays, a solar flower that follows the sun throughout the day to power the monitoring station. And then also it actually produces excess energy, so it's able to feed back into the grid. So if you're ever out there in First Ward Park, check it out. You can't miss it. And we're really proud. We're really excited of that. It's the first of its kind in the state. So it's just something really cool that we have here locally, and it is a pilot program. So hopefully it'll be able to be replicated throughout the state and continue to engage people in understanding air quality, understanding the impacts and how we can protect our health. So I don't know if you have anything else to add, Gordon, to that.
Yeah, everybody needs to know it's in Charlotte. First Ward Park in Charlotte. And it's only about 2 blocks off Tryon Street. So it's pretty easy to get there. And parking is readily apparent. There's a picture of it.
Here's the monitor here.
Yep.
And then there's information about it. And then you can't see, this is the solar flower, and it will track the sun, and that's providing the electricity for the learning station.
Okay.
And this is Robin Barrows, right, from NC Department of Environmental Division of Air Quality.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. So we actually have an air awareness program locally. We do education and outreach. Just again, teaching people how they can protect their health, teaching how they can continue to reduce emissions locally. And she is the head of the program for the air awareness. It is state funded, so it was state funded through air awareness. So that's why she is there. She is our leader when it comes to air awareness. So we're very happy that she was able to make it. I know it's pretty difficult still trying to coordinate. I know Steve mentioned earlier, he's still battling with COVID. So we're trying to get back to normal, but it has been a process. It's been a couple of years, but I'm glad that we're slowly getting there. And programs like this, being able to do it virtually, I mean, it really does make a difference for all of us to get together and continue to have these conversations. That's all we can do. So thank you so much.
Anybody else got something they want to add? Thank you, Yvonne, for that. I think I worked with you whenever I was at DAQ, that you were on some of the outreach calls, or one of your colleagues.
Might have been one of my colleagues. So I do work in Mecklenburg County, and there is a local air awareness program for the region, and it does encompass 7 counties. So it's not just, it is unique in the sense that it's not just Mecklenburg County, even though I do work for Mecklenburg County, but it is Lincoln, Cabarrus, Iredell, Lancaster, York. So, yeah, so we're in the area, but I don't really work under the state, but I do work for the state. It's kind of confusing, honestly. You know how things work with grants and programs.
Yeah. Bob, were you raising your hand or were you waving goodbye?
Yeah, I'm so bad. I can't even find the hand button.
Okay.
Bob, I can't find it either.
Okay. So this is really fantastic, and thank you for putting this all together. The idea to have a mailing list is fantastic because there's a bunch of questions and stuff. With the monitors I have, I'll just throw this out. The NCDAQ monitoring system for New Hanover County is actually 11 miles outside of town, and it's located in a swamp. And we always laugh about it because the values they may agree, but if they do, it's accident. And so we say that DAQ is measuring the air quality for the alligators, the bears, and the fox that we know are all around the site because we've had monitors out there at night. But here's what has really been interesting to me. And before the monitor, I never had an idea of the hyperlocal effects of air monitoring. So every winter at 9 o'clock, 9:30 or so, our monitors start kicking off all over town. And that's because if it's a still night, people are starting up their wood burning fireplaces or whatever. And those are significant numbers. Those are very significant numbers, which is a definite air exposure. There's some really great stuff that we've picked up on firework displays. So around July 3rd, 4th, or 5th, 6th, the air quality across North Carolina gets significantly worse. And it's in the levels that people are using increased amounts of steroids. If you looked at it across the state, people would be using increased amounts of steroid. They'd be using more inhalers. The levels are so high in some areas that as a retired ER doc, I pretty much know people are going into the ER. I don't have the data, but we have the data. I mean, we have some data. You can't directly correlate it, but individuals should know in an article in the newspaper or something like, and they do it out in Los Angeles, but in North Carolina, we pretty much could do a thing. And, if you're sensitive, you might better not go to the fireworks display. The other thing that we've picked up on are these fire department learning burns in urban areas. And those are huge events. And once again, you're getting levels 200, 300, 400. And, the people are just, the fire department says they need the burns. They do, but they don't need to do them in urban settings. And let me see the last thing.
The
Control burn.
leaves, Bob, your neighbor in the leaves.
Yeah, yeah, I can send all that out because it's amazing stuff. So there's a guy that's 300 yards from my house. And so what he does is he gathers all his wet leaves and timber and everything, and twice a year he burns. So, I mean, so I can send this stuff out to you. Give me your list. It's amazing. My air quality when he does that is some of the worst on the East Coast from the from the purple air monitors. And so then you can actually track the wind and actually show that. So I went over to him, talked to him, and he said, "Nah, I don't believe it." But then his sister is one of my neighbors, and she was pregnant, and I showed her, and then she talked to him. And you know, urban burning is a very, very significant impact. Anyway, go ahead. Thanks, guys.
Robert, I was just going to point out, open burning is the problem. It's open burning wherever it is.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
you heard
you're
that
right.
out of Steve up in the mountains. Open burning, which comes in the form of forest fires. They had a serious problem down in Greenville, I think it was Greenville, South Carolina. They put a federal monitor in a neighborhood, and they saw the same thing that you're describing. And they had to get everybody off burning coal. Otherwise, they would have gone into non-attainment.
Oh, right.
That kind of stuff is out there.
Oh, yeah. Yvonne?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, great point, Steve, about the fireworks. In 2020, we did normally in Mecklenburg County, our biggest concern is ozone. In 2020, ozone wasn't the problem because of the reduced driving that happened locally. However, the only exceedance we had that year was the 4th of July, and it was fireworks. So great point to bring up, especially around this time. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. I put in the chat and I told Denise and Bailey, take some screenshots of your map that morning and then take one at 9 and we can share those. Greg?
I was going to say, okay, I'm going to not be able to go out and buy those fireworks now that I wanted to buy for the 4th of July. I'm kidding, of course. I don't shoot off fireworks. I know what the problem is.
Thanks, Gordon. Yeah, do that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on a similar note, like we haven't had an ozone exceedance here, I think, since 2018, but in recent memory, we've had 3 PM exceedances. One was from a wildfire smoke transport event. One was from the Pilot Mountain wildfire. And then more recently in February was the Winston Weaver fertilizer fire.
Yeah.
So PM's been front and center, because I remember, when I started with the agency in 2018, I was told like ozone's our big problem. We haven't had an exceedance for PM in years. It's usually if it's a problem, Saharan dust or a wildfire or something. And then it's like all of a sudden, like ozone, I guess with the pandemic, it just kind of dropped off, and then PM's had some events here. So
Greg, we were really concerned about that fire, and we've talked to the Department of Health and Human Services to see if they're going to track any kind of, health impacts or hospitalizations as a result of that. What were your numbers like? Do you remember?
I don't know if I remember specifics. I could look it up pretty quickly.
Well,
I will say this, our monitors were able to catch the fire whenever the wind was blowing into our monitors. But the thing that kind of shocked me the most about that fire was there was you could see on the charts really big spike, and it was like long, however many hours. But then about 2 hours later on our Greensboro monitor, there's a similar little flip for the same amount of time. So that was transported at least all the way to Greensboro. I didn't track it to the Wake County, Orange County monitors, but I did see it on the Greensboro monitor that we have, and that was quite fascinating to see that.
Well, I'm going to throw in, this happened several years ago. We had Sahara desert sand issues.
Oh, yeah.
So this is, while I do point out that generally if you're going to do a particulate, it's going to be something more local. But it can be, depending on what's going on, it can be. And Yvonne may remember back to when we had wildfires out west, that we were having issues here in the east because of the transport of the smoke and resultant particulate.
Mhm.
I'm going to call it a night. Thank you very much,
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Yeah.
We'll be in touch.
We'll see you again in 3 months.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bye.
Have a great evening, everybody. Buy those fireworks.
I did look it up. It was 137 AQI for the
Wow.
fertilizer fire. And that was at our
137.
Clemens monitoring station where we don't have a purple air. I did talk to Brian Maggie fairly recently, and he
Mhm.
said he's trying to get funding to maybe put a couple more at Hattie to be co-located with the current one and the, two like federal equivalent reference method monitors. And then he wants to put 1 or 2 maybe at Clemens as well, which would be good, I think. And actually, out of our 3 recent exceedances, they were all at Clemens, which was interesting that the wind lined up that, it would come through Hattie, because we have, security cameras at Hattie Avenue, and you could see the smoke come through, but it didn't last too long. And obviously, when I saw it on video, it matched up with our regulatory and then the purple air.
So 137, was that purple air or your regulatory?
That was a T640.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's pretty high. Is that purple? That's not, is it red? That was red? Not, 137 would be red, not purple on the, color scale.
Yeah, I can double check.
You got green, yellow, orange. Well, that might have even been orange. I don't know.
I'm on the AQI forecasting team, but we deal with numbers like that so infrequently. I don't know.
That's all right. That's all right. It was high enough.
I guess so. Yeah. I mean, that would be, so 151 would be red. So it's just shy of that. That was a daily average of 50.1 micrograms per cubic meter. So yeah.
That's not good.
Yeah, that fire was bad in that it was persistent for a couple days in the same wind direction. And so like driving to work, I would go through the plume, and I mean, it was going basically right through Wake Forest University, where they had to cancel classes. And I just thought like all the homes there, the students, everything, I mean, just day after day, right in the same direction.
Yeah, we're
we were
concerned, and I'm glad you all have. So you have 2 purple airs up there.
Just the one, well, yeah, just the one at our monitoring station. The other one's north of downtown, and the wind never really hit that, just the way it worked out. And then more recently, I don't know who has them. I don't know if it's like y'all that are involved with that or someone else, but south of downtown and east, kind of around Winston-Salem State, I noticed there's like 5 or 6 now, something like that.
Really?
So, given the proximity to Winston-Salem State, I would assume it's probably something to do with the university. And I think there's one at a private business based on the label. So it's nice that we kind of are starting to get a little bit covered. So I think if we could get one at Clemens, it would be good. And even though we don't have it for a co-location, we do have another site, Union Cross, in the southeastern part of the county. So theoretically, if we got one at each of our sites, it'd be kind of covered based on whatever wind direction you might pick something up. But
yeah, great. Well, thanks for joining, Greg.
Yeah,
thank you.
And Bob and Ron.
And Andrew and Kelly.
Y'all have a good night.
Yeah.
See you, Ron.
Bye. Have a good night.
All right, thanks.